Hey, everybody out there, welcome into the closing line for November 10th, 2017, presented by the good people here at sportsbookreview.com. I'll be your host, Donnie Rightside. You see, we are on Hangouts tonight, so you can see Drew Martin right there on the bottom of the screen. We'll bring him in just a few moments. We're going to have a lot of fun today. It's Football Friday. I know, folks, college basketball is underway at this point, but throughout football season on Football Fridays, football is going to take precedent here. That's NCAA football as well as NFL. Got some games tonight we're going to talk about and go over. My Temple Owls are going to be in play. Also some big games over the weekend. The Miami Hurricanes, again, in that prime time, 8 p.m. Eastern time slot, going to take on Notre Dame. Drew and I will talk that game over, see if we can find some angles and some ways to win you money. If you haven't done so yet there, folks, I say it each and every time we come on. It's free content that we provide here. Help us out. And help us out on the website there, sbrodds.com, a free marketing odds service. Go there, see where the lines are moving right now. If you're watching the Duke Army game right now, in the last 15, 20 minutes, that line has shifted between 3, 3.5. Get those late line movements there. They're going to be key to make you money throughout football, college basketball season, baseball season, what have you there. Also, give us a follow on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks and also on YouTube. You guys are watching us right now there. Hit the subscribe button. That way you know each and every time me and Drew go live on Football Friday. Dip in there on the live chat box. We'll have some fun and go over a couple games. Matt Holt scheduled to join us tonight since it is Hangouts. I did send him the Hangout link, so when he does pop in, we'll certainly go over some information to see what's taking place over the counter, see where that money's going. A lot of big games in the NFL and also college football. Be interesting to see where that sharp money's going and what type of wagers are coming in and out. I do want to bring on my co-host here every single Friday throughout football season, Drew Martin. Follow him on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Drew, welcome into the closing line, brother.
Donnie, thanks for having me, man. Friday at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific. We got 3 top 10 matchups in college football tomorrow, a threesome tonight in college football, Friday night action. Hey, Donnie, also, did you know, Ed Fang filled me in on this. This week last year was when 3 of the top 4 teams went down in college football. So not sure if it will repeat, but exciting weekend in college football for sure.
No, that's what we're hoping for, right? I mean, if we're, Miami Hurricane fans around here, the top 3 team, one team is ranked number 3. That would be Notre Dame. Would nice to be able to take down and take a loss in that football game for the Canes. But we'll go over that and a lot more. A lot of stuff here. What we'll do first, as I said, Matt Holt's probably going to join us about midway through the program. We'll have some fun with him, see where the money's going. 3 games on the docket tonight, Drew. Not great games, but hey, not bad games. And since it is the closing line, we do like to get everybody set up and ready to go. Before we do that, I want to say thanks for everybody chiming in on the chat box here. I'm now able to finally see my picture in there and have some fun with you guys. Gogster, Chico, Esho, Daniel, Drew. Hey, yeah, Drew, you're in there, right? Correct. Conrado, Stack Guap is in there tonight. I don't, maybe the ulterior guy from Guan White, Gerald Martinez is in there. Most people on Temple tonight will review that football game. Let's get into it, Drew. 119-120, Temple Owls and the Cincinnati Bearcats. About 12,000 tickets have been racked offshore on this football game. 77% of those tickets, folks, are lining up on the Temple Owls. Line opened up at Pinnacle at 2.5. Chris, 2.5. Now sitting both Pinnacle and Chris at -3. If we look at CG Technologies, -2.5, -120. Over under sitting at 48.5. Weather changing up here up north. It is cold in Philadelphia, but as I say that it is in Cincinnati, but not the greatest weather conditions there as we've seen over the past couple weeks. Sitting on that line a little low, Jeff and I talked about this game a little bit earlier, Drew. Just looking at it myself, to me, Temple seems to me being the tougher team to get that little shot in the arm with the change at quarterback. 3 big wide receivers that can catch and run the football. Still got Raquel Armstead back there running as tailback. And I just don't trust Cincinnati, Drew. What are your thoughts on this football game?
Yeah, I kind of am in agreement with you. I mean, Temple coming off of the big win against Navy and national television weekday game. So obviously they're going to take more money, and you hit on the ticket count there. But they did look a lot stronger. Cincinnati has put together 2 straight wins ATS against SMU and Tulane. But you got to remember, Tulane's down now. Injuries up front, so that's not the same Tulane team as earlier. I try not to give it too much credit to them. In Temple, they look good against Navy. They're a tough team. They have 2 extra days to prepare, so it is a road game in Nippert Stadium, that old stadium there in Cincinnati. But yeah, I like Temple in this game as well. So you can still get them a field goal, even less maybe. But yeah, I'm on Temple as well. I think they're the tougher team. I think they'll win up front, and so yeah, I got Temple -3 in pocket.
Yeah, it's interesting here when you take a look. Cincinnati, if you want to bet that side of it, let's just go back, 5 games. Doesn't really make sense to go back all the way to like the first game of the season at a conference. Lost to Marshall 38-21, lost to UCF. No shame in that one, 51-23. UCF's putting a hurting on a lot of people. South Florida, another tough game. No surprise, losing 33-3 on the road there versus SMU. Tight game, up-tempo SMU. That showed a little bit of heart there, 31-3, even though they lost the game straight up in that instance. They were able to cover the spread. And then beating Tulane 17-16, a little bit of the luster, Drew, knocked off Tulane, a few weeks back, maybe after their win over Tulsa. Hey, Tulane turning the corner, but haven't played all that well overall. Temple, almost like a tale of two seasons to me, just trying to find out who their quarterback was, what their identity is after Matt Rule and a bunch of those guys, PJ Walker leaving last year, Jahad Thomas leaving after last year, lost to Houston 20-13 at home. No slouch there. Houston's a good football team. Going to East Carolina, taking care of business 34-10. Have the little slip up at Connecticut, home versus Connecticut, 28-24. Had a chance to win that football game. Weren't able to convert. Then going up to Army, which looking at that, Drew, 31-28. They did lose that football game, but a couple things in the balance. A nice comeback for Temple in that game, down 2 touchdowns early, fought all the way back and took the lead and gave up that, I think it was like a 1:10 drive to Army, who doesn't throw the football. They ended up scoring on the last drive of the game, and then a missed field goal in overtime by Temple. They end up taking the loss there, but then a nice comeback win versus Navy, 34-26. And that game was played a lot worse than that final score was, Drew. Temple's in full control of that game. Late touchdown there, pulled it a little bit closer for Navy, but getting Nutile back there at quarterback now, a kid that can run and throw accurately along with a good running game. I lean on Temple, and it just comes down to sometimes when you look at it, Drew, Cincinnati, not the toughest overall football team to me. I think Temple's a little bit tougher here. That's all.
Yeah, man, I'm in agreement. I don't have a lot more on this game. It's not a team that I've really followed too much in Cincinnati. I mean, I know that they've kind of lost a lot of their money for their backers, but I mean, Temple really impressive against Navy. The extra time to prepare. Sometimes I do look to go against teams that just got off of playing an option team. Just the offensive line going at the opposing defensive line's legs the whole game. But both of these teams just did that against Navy and against Tulane. So, Donnie, I mean, I would take the 2 extra days rest preparation time that they get, and I would lay it with Temple, even though it is on the road. I don't think it's going to be too bad of an atmosphere. So, yeah, I'm with you, man, on Temple.
There you go. Hey, by the way, looking at the chat box, you never know what to expect out here. YYC Golfer just had a tumor removed from the throat, bedridden for 2 weeks. Watch SBR shows religiously. Thanks for everything you guys do. Penny Packer, my man, I know he reached out on Twitter today. Get well, get lucky in there. That's what we do. I mean, hey, if the big man on campus could come on here, he would go 24/7 and take good care of you, YYC, here on the channels. But we do appreciate it. It's what we do. We have a lot of fun, and it's a free service that we have, live chat box. It's why we do the show. We don't just sit here talk. I can't go upstairs, as I say, and talk with my wife. I stay down in the studio and talk with you guys out here. Drew's down in Costa Rica. It's a way for everybody to connect. And what's the end game here with sportsbookreview.com? Most people say it's to win some money over here. I'm not paid by the sports books. I don't give out the wrong side of plays on purpose. I always like when we get that contrarian view from chat box. You guys work for the sports books. No, we don't. Just a bunch of guys that talk sports that maybe we can lead you in the right direction. Drew, another game up here tonight. This is the game of the night, and this is the game I really like here. I don't want to say from a betting perspective, but if you're just going to sit down on a Friday night, open up the Ciroc or the Grey Goose and just sit back and relax, that Washington-Stanford game, not too bad to take a look at. Line's been bouncing a little bit through the week. Opened up at 7, Drew at Pinnacle, 7 at Chris. Looks like it's down to 6 at Chris, 6.5 CG Technologies, 6 -115 at Bet Online. Taking a look at this football game overall, we know it's all about the running back position. Love is a really good one from Stanford. They want to establish the run and keep control of the clock. But the one thing that Washington does really well, Drew, that defense brings it, and they stop the run repeatedly here. Now, going on the road, be interesting because the line is a little bit stiff for me. If you're looking at Washington, a touchdown favorite on the road, Stanford does play well in this role as an underdog and is an overall good football team. You're asking Washington basically here, Drew, to win by a touchdown or more on the road. Think they can get that done here?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's interesting. We were just talking off air about FIU and them not like covering big numbers. They're just not built for it. Washington in that same profile. And when you look at this matchup, Stanford, what they excel at, a next level running back, although he may be still dinged up a little bit, and really pounding the ball down your throat. That's where, Washington defensively can excel as well. They lost all of their defensive backs or a lot of them off of last year's squad. So the profile-wise, I think that Washington defensively matches up well against Stanford. On the other side, do I want to lay the points with Washington on the road? Not that Stanford's going to have that big of a home field advantage, just with this kick, what about 7 local time there with the traffic we know in Palo Alto? There should be just as many Washington fans as Stanford fans, so I wouldn't factor that too much in. However, at the same time, I'm not laying this number with a Washington team that I don't think is really built to cover big numbers. Not that this is a big number, but still, I think there's so much left on the board, including even tonight's card. The other 2 games, I feel like I have a little bit better of a read on. So this one's, I'm just watching from the sidelines, Donnie.
Yeah, the one anomaly in there, Washington, we take a look at. I mean, blast Oregon State at Oregon State, blast Cal at home, 38-7. You beat UCLA 44-23. UCLA we got a little bit extra late scoring there to try to even bring that closer. Rout Oregon 38-3. That one anomaly going on the road at Arizona State, the 13-7 game, the Pac-12 after dark, where you woke up and said, how the hell did Washington lose that football game? But that is one of the things you have to worry about. You're going on the road. You're not at home. It's loud at Husky Stadium. It's a great home field advantage. Something about those Northwest, corridor fans up there, Drew. I mean, Washington, an extremely loud place. And obviously down in at the Seattle Seahawks, is it still Quest? I don't even know what they call it out there anymore, but that loud as hell. But hey, give it up to those fans, giving themselves a good home field advantage going on the road. If we look at Stanford here, last 5 games beat Arizona State at home 34-24, at Utah 23-20, Oregon 49-7. Seems like everybody's beating Oregon like a drum until they finally got their quarterback back. Oregon State 15-14. That was an interesting one. Barely pulled it out there in Corvallis, and then going to Washington State, losing 24-21. If you just look at the scores there, Drew, you say, man, what? Washington should be able to roll into this game and really, kick tail. But I hasten it. When Love is back in the football game, they can control the clock. Do I think Washington overall, Drew, is a better football team? Yes. But from a betting perspective, would like to see it a little bit lower. You're asking them to win by 7 on the road. Can Washington do it? Do I think Washington's going to cover? If I had to bet the football game, yeah, I would lean towards Washington because I like overall what Washington does. Browning's a good quarterback. Myles Gaskin on the ground. They have some playmakers outside at wide receiver. And their defense brings it every single football game. Like when you look at the last 5 games, Drew, you say, I can find a chink in their armor. Where's the chink in the armor out there for them?
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. Now, also, I guess a reason not to lay it, because you bring up some reasons to lay it, is it's a short week and they are the road team. So, another travel day away from practice like that. And also want to give a shout out to Daniel Y in the chat box. He's saying he's in San Jose, California, and it is raining. So weather could be an issue. I guess that actually might help Stanford. What do you think?
I don't even know because, Washington doesn't throw it all around the yard, but they can lean on their running backs just as well, and they bring it on defense. I don't know. Maybe that would impact actually the over-under in this football game. So if we're taking a look from that perspective, 50, 49, 48.5 actually now at Bet Online. So that number looks like it is dropping down a little bit, but I guess if there's rain, it probably would affect the over-under because, again, what do we know about these 2 teams, Drew? Their MOs there. Washington is not in a hurry, and neither is Stanford. They're okay with saying, you know what? I love the fact we can get in the 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2. That just means you're not moving the ball. I don't want to say efficiently is the wrong word, but fast down the football field. Like, some teams, Drew, just get a 5-play drive, 80 yards. You never even see 3rd down. These 2 teams are okay with 3rd down because most of the time it's going to be 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and less than a yard, and they eat that up and they can pick up those first downs. So I anticipate the clock moving. Do I want to bet the under in this game? No, but if there's going to be a little bit of weather in there, both of these teams fit the MO. Like, we're going to play rock'em sock'em robots out here. I'm going to line up double tight end sets from Stanford and run right up the middle and see who's going to be the one that's going to blink first. It should be a fun football game because when we joke about the Big 12 conference out there, this game is the antithesis of the Big 12 conference. Should be fun to watch if you're into some head-knocking football out there.
Yeah, I agree. And in talking about the over-under, if you pull up Chris right now on SBR odds, their totals movement where you just click on the box there, it's had some big movement, man, about 6 points. And just 2 days ago, it was at 44. Now been bought up all the way to 49. So talk about value propositions, bringing in the weather like Daniel, the local there, is saying. I mean, you could put that extra 5 points in your pocket if you want to go under. Obviously, a service or some kind of big bet was obviously, or multiple bets put on the under, but since been pushed back to the over. So interesting line movement there. Also, want to remind everybody to make sure to check out these line movements early in college basketball with their totals. I know the limits are low, but that's a market where you can get some winners in your pocket and beat the books as well. Since we don't work for the books, Donnie, that's a reminder.
No, you're right. Yeah. But by the way, just hitting on a quick college basketball point, it's like it's helter skelter out there in college basketball. Like I use a couple different services that show like where some steam's going, where some lines are changing. I can't get it off my screen fast enough. How many times that those college basketball games I've got to learn on steam over under, steam over under. I mean, my good, like because I mean the books are the same. Like they're coming out saying, all right, low limits first day. Nobody's seen these teams play. And you get, some of your better bettors over the years, laying down the wood. They're adjusting those lines on the fly repeatedly all day long. So it's a lot of fun. It's, saying that the odd screen lights up like a Christmas tree, like, 5 minutes before kickoff on Sunday or Saturday, when you just see everything changing when people are just trying to ram their final bets home. College basketball, that odds board has absolutely lit up this evening. One game on the board here late night again, 2 games at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. So it looks like Temple's going to get a lot of national attention here on a Friday night, which is a good thing. 123, 124. It's going to be BYU and UNLV squaring up out there in Sin City. About 6,200 tickets have been tracked offshore. Line opened up over underwise, drew 50, 49.5, depending where you're shopping at. Sitting about that same range, 49, 49.5. The side, UNLV opened up as a 4-point favorite. Pinnacle, 4.5. Point favorite at Chris. And look at the line moving on that. BYU now showing a Chris a -1. CG Technology showing a -1.5. So a lot of line movement. What gives here, Drew? And why would the line be moving in BYU's direction tonight?
I don't know. I'm kind of dumbfounded about this. Pick'em's starting to show up at Bet Online. Yeah, I don't know. I like UNLV. I mean, I haven't bet it yet, but at this point, I got to figure out what's going on here. I mean, I guess you could say, a quarterback question, but I like both quarterbacks for UNLV. We got quarterback issues on BYU as well. I mean, Tanner Magnum, like you just said, what's going on here? I like UNLV. They just covered against Hawaii. And, that game against Fresno State, going on the road, getting the outright W, Stanton playing well. BYU, I guess, cashing 2 in a row after that long stretch of ATS losses. Some people kind of jumping off of that train, so not a lot of fade money there. I guess that could be the argument towards it. They did look pretty good against Fresno State. Not great, but held Fresno State intact. But no, I like UNLV here. I think they have more playmakers, more healthy playmakers, and better quarterback position right now for UNLV. So I'm on UNLV, and at Pick'em, haven't bet them yet, Donnie, but I'm about to pull the trigger, man.
Yeah, I mean, Mangum's out. Bo Hodge, looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback tonight. Armani Rogers, I saw Joe Evson. I'm guessing Armani Rogers ruled out for the football game. I haven't seen that yet, but I mean, I guess with some line, because really, why would you be hammering? Because this is one of the games, and I'll admit, I didn't take, a half hour a day to review like what's going on here in BYU versus UNLV. I know the generals of this game, the specifics, but I don't know what would generate that line movement. Let me take a look. I mean, Chris is sitting right now at -1 in the favor of BYU, just trying to take a look to see where some of these lines, and that line movement specifically coming from today. I mean, you're looking at maybe, today's the 10th, opened up in the morning around 10 a.m. Eastern time at 4.5, dropped to 3.5, and has steadily gone down throughout the day, right up to being a -1 favorite for the visitor. So a 4-point line. I don't want to say like, hey, man, somebody knows something out there. Why don't we know what's going on there? But somebody was really hitting BYU and forcing our hand on that. But I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things with suspensions, because college football, one of the rare sports where I don't know how they do it, but usually kids talk and leak information. It's like when you go, in high school, you hook up with the hot girl and she's like, just don't tell anybody about it. You're like, bullshit. I'm telling like 5 of my best friends. I'll tell them not to tell anybody. And word spreads out. Like, how do you hide information? Like, starting quarterback hasn't taken a snap yet in practice. And then all of a sudden on Sunday, they're like, oh, by the way, he's going to be out for the football game, and nobody knows about it. So some interesting stuff, some interesting line movement. Those are the ones I like, because you have a couple hours to get up to speed, almost about 4 hours away from kickoff there to see who's in or who's out. But BYU now playing the favorite role. What has BYU shown anybody to play the favorite role here on the road?
Yeah, really. I mean, they don't put up big points really at all. I take out the San Jose State team, which San Jose State, they don't even belong in FBS at least this year. Fresno State, only putting up 13 points, giving up 20. Again, both. That's a big dog roll at this price point. No way. I'm not into it, but I do like your analogy as far as hooking up with the hot girl, Donnie. It's like you got to tell everybody, man. Unless you want to keep it going, though. You know, that was one thing.
No, but it's not even as important to keep it going. When you're in high school, it's status. We all know this. It's status. Like, yo, you got with, Jen last night? Yeah, I did. She said not to say, so please don't tell anybody. But if you want to, you can tell somebody. You know what I mean? That's about status. Like, I didn't tell. How did that get out there? I didn't tell him that. It's amazing college football kids can keep that stuff under wraps, especially if you're the starting quarterback yourself. You want to get on Twitter and be like, man, coach just benched me this week. Have at it what you will. But they're pretty good at keeping that stuff. Even the guys that get suspended for the game, like you come in on Tuesday, you broke team rule, you missed curfew last night, and you didn't show up to study hall, and you missed your 8 a.m. class. You're going to be suspended for this week's game. Like, kids usually get pissed and tell somebody. And be like, damn it, man, I'm going to miss the game. This is going to kill me in this football game. But you never hear about it. It's crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah, that's true. And especially if Jen is like friends with Stacy, who's also hot, Stacy might see you with Jen and then, create a little jealousy, and you might have that in your
Exactly. Like what good is it if nobody knows about it? If you got with the really hot chick in high school, it doesn't do you any good except for, for yourself. Said, look, as long as nobody knows, I'll keep, hooking up with you there. But it does you no good in high school unless people know about it. So
yeah, you got to tell your friends. That's half the battle, man. Hey, I also want to throw in what this UNLV BYU looks like. Big man on campus, or somebody was saying Mark Lawrence is on BYU, so that might push the line a little bit.
Well, yeah, Mark's pushing it. I wonder if Mark has a few trends on this game. I think he if you picked up his magazine today, he said, going back to Jim McMahon at BYU and Lavelle Edwards. He's probably going back that far to try to pick up some information. And that big man's all about that stuff out there. He knows all about that. It looks like Temple -3 here. Yeah. No,
you guys got a little tiff with Mark Lawrence?
No, we don't have any tiff with anybody. We just like me and Jeff like to bust balls because we get our balls busted. We like to bust them back. So whenever we have a little bit of angle to get in, but we always preface it by saying we all lose in this business. I mean, hopefully you don't lose long term, but you can't win every single game. But me and Jeff like to have a lot of fun saying, like, what did Jim McMahon winning the national title in like 1980 or 1983 in college football have to do with BYU going to UNLV with their quarterback out tonight? That's the stuff that I laugh at. Like, last 7 times that BYU's been to UNLV. Well, they probably haven't played BYU, 7 times over the last 30 years. So I don't really care about Lavelle Edwards and, who else was there? Coy Detmer, Ty Detmer, whoever's quarterback. Doesn't really have too much heading into this football game. That's what we always like to bust balls and joke about.
Yeah, and you bring up, like, for actual handicapping angle here, like, go back 30 years. Obviously, that doesn't matter. How far do you go back, Donnie? I mean, I kind of think any further back than 5 years in college football is kind of, I never look at it just because nobody on the
no, it's too far. It's too far. There's so many moving parts in college, and I like to say even like the NFL, everything to me is week to week. Like if you opened up the season and had a really nice win, but you lost your quarterback and 3 of your offensive linemen, that doesn't really help me, into November. Do I like to look at stats and say, the last 7 times this team played at home, they won, or how they're doing? I love stuff like that. But if you're going to start talking about stuff like, the same thing with like Temple. Like I know people this year that are betting Temple analysis based on like their last 3 years under Matt Rule and how good they were. Like that doesn't even make any sense to me. Like it doesn't, like PJ Walker and, Jihad Tom, like that whole Matakevich and Ioannidis, Hassan Reddick, like they're not walking through the door and the head coach is gone. So how can you say like the last 13 times Temple played at home? Why? That doesn't mean anything in these football games that measure up. That's the only thing I like to poke holes in that stuff. But if you're going to tell me like this season they've allowed running backs to go over 120 yards 5 times, I love that stat because that's relevant to what's going on here. If you're going to tell me all about Jihad Thomas and PJ Walker for Temple last year and how good they were at home, okay, does that help me win a football game this year at Lincoln Financial Field when it's a completely different regime? No. Some stats pertain to it, but I'll even go back a year, like the one that Ian used for like the Buffalo Bills. I know it's a different head coach, but you have the same, elements out there. Shady McCoy, Tyrod Taylor, the same overall defensive concept, so to speak. Like that makes sense to me. Like, but if you're going to say, they have a brand new quarterback, brand new running game, and like, what happens if Buffalo went to the wing T out there this year? And you're going to tell me that last year they went over 9 times. Well, that doesn't help me if it's a wing T offense and they're looking to burn clock out there. Just, certain stuff like that. I like to look at what pertains to this year and make sense. And as I say, Drew, build me a case, man. I'll get on board. I'll lay down some money. Build me a case, man.
Yeah, it's to each situation is a separate situation. I agree with you. And I was just bringing up the fact that, if you bring up something in college football 10 years ago, the furthest you can go is 4, maybe 5 years in college football for anything, as far as I'm concerned, just because the players are all different. So, yeah, going way back, I think is worthless.
Yeah, I got a good one. Like, we're going to talk, and my favorite side of the week is coming up again on the Packers. Once we flip it over to the NFL card, we'll have some fun with that and go over certain instances, which I've been giving out pretty much as I can, just having the poke fun. But there's some big games in college football tomorrow. The one I do want to look at also, there are a couple games. I mean, we'll get to the big boys there, but some games that might be flying a little bit under the radar. I even talked to Teddy yesterday on the show about this game, and I wanted to get your pick on this because – not to say even a pick on the game, but just the way you break down a game like this or to see what's what. We're looking at 127, 128 tomorrow, noon kickoff. South Carolina down in Columbia, the Gamecocks and the Florida Gators. We all watched last week, right? You know, Florida's just having a turmoil year. Everybody's suspended. They have no idea what they're doing at quarterback. They just rotate guys in and out. Jim McElwain gets fired because he had fake death threats and tried to get sympathy. And the university's like, all right, hey, look, we want to protect you and your family. Show us the emails and the phone calls you got. Well, I don't really have any, but yeah, people are just saying they're going to kill me. All right, fine. You're out of here. You're fired. And then you bring in Randy Shannon, who's the defensive coordinator, and you say, you know what? Coach Shannon's going to take the lead here. And it's one of those games where you say, like, hey, man, let's play for the coach. I love Randy Shannon. You know, we're on defense. Don't worry about the offense. Let's really play well for Coach Shannon. Put him in a good light. Maybe he can even be the head coach at the end of it if we make a run and, you know, he likes us, we like him. And they get flatlined at Missouri. I mean, just pasted. Now you go back home, and Randy Shannon knows, like, no, man, they're gonna can me at the end of the year, too. Like, are you putting in the extra time in the film room? You know you're going to have a brand new coaching regime next year. What are you trying to do with your season? And you're rolling to South Carolina. South Carolina doesn't blow teams out, but they're a good football team. What has Florida shown that they're going to go on the road and even care about putting up a fight versus South Carolina? In this type of instance, Drew, what do you look at in these games?
Well, you got to bring motivation and just how the team has played under the new coach. And I fell for it. I'll admit, Donnie, I lost on Florida last week. I just thought that, you know, Randy Shannon coming in would kind of rejuvenate the defense there, and it absolutely didn't. I will question a little bit, was part of that Missouri, because Missouri has come on of late. I believe there are other games before that when people were like, oh, Missouri's coming back, that offense is rolling. I know it was UConn and another like nobody as far as the teams they played, but then they were able to put it on Florida there. So not sure as far as grading how much of that was Missouri and how much of that was just Florida being awful. I'm really hesitant to bet Florida in this case. I think you can make a lot better case for South Carolina. And how about Will Muschamp, man? I know he gets a lot of shit. A lot of people hate him, whatnot. He's easy to make fun of there on the sidelines. But depending on what number you get South Carolina at this year, they're 7-2 ATS. They're putting it, you know, they're going to be going to a bowl game. South Carolina, you know, Florida at this point is probably wishing they didn't get rid of old Muschamp there. But yeah, in this one, Donnie, as far as betting it, man, I'm only betting the Cox in this one at home. So yeah, I just think that they have the possibility to kind of put it on Florida.
I hear on that. Another 12 o'clock game, 135, 136, Drew. That's going to be UConn and Central Florida. The only reason I bring up this football game, am I invested in it? No. Am I going to be betting this football game? No. But I just think it's kind of interesting that it shows the power that UCF has. I mean, I know Brandon Sheriff's going to be out for the football game for UConn. They're going to get the running back, but UConn's going to get their running back in this football game, Markel Newsome. But the line opens up at 37. Quarterback goes out. It's now 41 with an over-under of 62. We all know Central Florida can ice this football game. They're at home. They should be able to roll Connecticut. But when you deal with these numbers, 41, I always like to take a look at from a counter perspective and say, you know what? Florida might be up 50 points in this football game, Drew, in the fourth quarter. How much do they care about covering 41, 41 and a half, wherever it's hanging out there at? And can you consciously lay a 41? I know UCF can score. They can score fast. But what's in it for UCF if the score is 48-0 with 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter? Is it worth them to press the gas, keep some starters in, keep it moving? Or are they looking to just run the football and say, you know what? UConn scores. Who gives a damn in this one?
Donnie, man, I'll take the other side as far as the latter side of what you were just talking about. When you look at UCF and who they're able to put it on, when they have the opportunity to kind of lay it on and go 50-plus points, 60-plus points, even 70-plus points, they do it, man. I mean, the games that they've struggled in, they've actually struggled moving the ball, against SMU, against Navy, as far as in competitive matchups. when they're able to put it on people, they do. It doesn't matter if Mackenzie Milton's in, or the backup quarterback's pretty good as well. And Scott Frost has him throwing it around, no matter if they're up 30 points, whatnot. So I kind of understand this number at 40. UConn, by the way, did you see that Sheriff's hit by the South Florida kid? That was a dirty hit, man.
No, I did not. No, I didn't even know, because I saw he was out for the game, with the concussion, but I actually didn't see how it was actually done. Nasty hit?
Dude, yeah, he wasn't even throwing the ball. He like pitched it or threw it to the running back, turned like going out his fake, and the South Florida defensive end just went helmet to helmet, knocked him out. And the South Florida kid, I believe he'll be out this week as well, or the first half of this
targeting role. Yeah, it must have been a good one.
Yeah, it was dirty, man. But anyway, yeah, I can understand this number. I could see UCF putting it on them. I checked the weather first, make sure that the scoring position, the scoring situation will be okay for them to throw the ball. But yeah, I could see him lighting it up, man. It'd be UCF or pass for me.
Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I guess UCF or Florida ties here. The one interesting thing about these two in this football game is, if you saw a couple years ago, I think it was maybe 2-3 years ago, where Connecticut made a trophy up and said this is now going to be a rivalry game called the Civil Conflict. They made their own trophy up. They have like a countdown clock, and UCF refuses to recognize, A, that it's a rivalry game, and every time they beat UConn, refuse to take the trophy back. Is this one of these games where now UCF has like an offbeat, look, we don't want your civil conflict game, whatever you call this. Like, we're going to run you like 72-0 and then tell you to take that trophy back home to Connecticut with you.
Yeah, I heard about this. I read an article about it. And I'll tell you this, Donnie, even going back from when I was in high school in football, UConn was always recruiting down there. And the running back from my high school, a kid named Sam Dorville, big dude, could pound people. He actually signed with UConn. And I tried to tail him and be like the buddy scholarship, but they didn't want any of me. Yep. But anyway, yeah, I saw that trophy. And what is this? Explain this to me. Like, civil conflict? Is this going back to like the Civil War, North versus South, or what are they trying to do?
Yeah, like, it's a brand new conference. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's one of those things where when you're a program like UConn, you're trying to get relevant. So, you see it all the time in the MAC, and like these trophies go back like 50, 60 years. You see like the Paul Bunyan trophy in the Big Ten, like stuff that really means something. So they're like, you know what? Let's get a rivalry going. Let's make this trophy, and then we're going to like egg on UCF. Like, yeah, look at this. We look at the civil conflict. We're going to take this trophy this year. And it's just funny that UCF refuses even to acknowledge the game. Like, usually they'd be like, we don't have too many, rivalry games, or maybe it's USF, or we want to beat Florida, or we want to beat Miami. But like Connecticut making up the award, and the best part about it is like UCF just says, look, corner, we're going to pound you, and then we don't even want the freaking trophy. It's one of the more hilarious things. Like, you figure like they would have talked there, like, well, how about we come up with this? Like, I don't really know if I like that idea. You know what? We're going to come up with it, and then we're going to promote it. And one team just like, we're not promoting anything, and when we beat you, we're not even going to take the trophy. It's pretty hilarious to me.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't UCF just take the trophy and then just not market it themselves to at least like have a little motivation? I don't understand it, but it is kind of funny. It's like an extra added insult to you.
Yeah, exactly. Because most of the time, like, kids enjoy that stuff. Like, Bowling Green versus Miami of Ohio. You're going to beat them, then you get to carry that trophy off. It's fun. Like, yeah, it's ours. Or the Duke, North Carolina, they have that like little cannon or that little bell, whatever they have, and you get to paint it like baby blue, or you can paint it, Duke blue, and you keep it for a year, and it's like, yeah, respect. You're not taking this trophy back from us. But the fact that they might beat them like 50-0, and then just like, dude, just take your trophy back home with you is just the ultimate disrespect. But I thought there was a funny angle that I don't know if it would play into the point spread or not, but it always makes me laugh every time I see like, Barstool Sports or CBS Sports retweet the civil conflict trophy, and the fact that UCF wants nothing to do with it always is a good time. Makes me laugh and that stuff.
Yeah, man. Hey, let me ask you about one. MTSU versus Charlotte. What Brent Stockstill's back now. I know Charlotte is kind of Hassan Klue. You're not a big fan of his, but I guess I've read a couple articles. The team hasn't quit. I mean, I lost on them on that UAB game, but other than that, I mean, they have put together four of the last five they've covered. I mean, they're not good by any means, but how much do you bring that in, especially MTSU? We know their offense can move the ball with Brent Stockstill at quarterback.
Yeah, you know what? I was trying to build a case early in this week because, when you watch some teams, and again, it's always week to week, I wasn't impressed at all by Charlotte. Old Dominion has an okay defense, and Drew, they didn't even cross the 30-yard line. And Hassan Klue didn't get hurt until I want to say till 6 minutes to go or 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So it wasn't like he was out in the first quarter and this young kid comes in, he has no idea what he's doing. They didn't even get to the 30-yard line and cross that. They had no red zone opportunities in a football game, and you got shut out. It's hard. It's hard to get shut out in college football. And it's not like they went on the road, Drew, and played Alabama and got shut out. They went on the road and played ODU at home, which routinely is giving up 35 points per game and got shut out. But the one thing I didn't like so much is I watched that whole God love me, I watched the whole Middle Tennessee State UTEP game because I wanted to get in depth and say, what's Stock still doing? He was real rusty in that game, had the lowest completion percentage of his career, was under 50%, and that was against UTEP. UTEP doesn't really put up too much of a fight. Stock still threw in the triple coverage in the end zone one time and got intercepted, but it was one of those games where he really wasn't under pressure in that game because it was UTEP, it was at home. But now you're asking him to step out on the road. Do I think Middle Tennessee State wins the football game? Sure, I do, because I'm not really high on Charlotte. But when you look at Charlotte in their home games, they have won a game. I think it was UAB they beat. But also playing a little bit closer with football teams. I don't know if I want to take Middle Tennessee State in this instance, figuring they have to lay and win by 14-plus points on the road. If this game was at home in Murfreesboro, I'm much more confident. And you know what? Stockstill got the rust out. They're at home again. What's Charlotte going to bring on the road? They usually don't play very well on the road. But I got a little bit of hesitant late in the week taking that 14, 13, 12.5 line. On Saturday night, I was all fired up to fade Charlotte and be like, I don't even give a damn. Just give me Middle Tennessee State. But the more I take a step back, Hassan Klue's going to play in the game, how healthy he is with that ankle. But it just comes down to it, Drew. I don't know if I want to lay almost 14 points with Middle Tennessee State. I don't know if they're ready for that type of game yet.
Yeah, especially Richie James is out, and
he's out for the year. Lee still, they still have other products. They play good defense, and again, I'm not impressed with Charlotte. But when you look at the reverse of the game, it's not so much that say they can't win by 14. It's the fact that if they get up 20, like Charlotte, Hassan Klue can break one on offense. He can get loose. They can run a little read option, and when Middle Tennessee State's like, dude, we're up 15 with 3 minutes to go. Just let them bleed clock, and if they score, it's no big deal. I can see Charlotte getting a backdoor covered home that way. I'm just not ready to lay Middle Tennessee State money at 14 points around that from what they have to win.
Yeah, and do you think it's something where Brent Stockstill, you bring up the fact of getting the rust out, which, I would bring that into my handicap as well. But do you think he's actually hurt and playing through, an injury where he's not going to get better?
No, I don't think it is. I think it was one of those things because he came back. The beat writer down there said he was practicing back-to-back days going all the way back to the Marshall game. So it wasn't like he just got in on a Wednesday, hey, scan's clean, Dad. Let me play some football here. He's been working through it. And the good thing I did see in that game is UTEP did hit him quite a bit at points, taking I think it was 7 or 8 hits where he actually went down in the pocket, which is good because that shows him hey, you know what? I could take a hit and I can get up and I can still play football, but they're not overall as powerful here. And going on the road, I don't think there's anything wrong, even though, God love the scan coming back because it came at a good time because Urzua had to retire from concussion. So he was able to at least step back in where the young redshirt freshman didn't have to step in and play. But the one thing that does propel them a little bit, Drew, if they run the table, which they can, they don't have a very tough schedule. They're going to be bowl eligible. So that's going to keep that team motivated to say, you know what, we're just not playing out the string. If we handle Charlotte, I think they get two more chump teams that they can easily beat and probably will be favored throughout the rest of the season. They can make a bowl. So that's an interesting angle for that one.
Yeah, and then to give him more practice time with Stockstill at the quarterback position, bet on him in the bowl game like I did last year in the Hawaii Bowl and took the L, which I'm still kind of pissed off about. But, yeah, buddy, just wanted to get your opinion on that one.
Yeah, no, Ty James, Richie, when they come, they're all going to be back next year. He's only a junior as a quarterback, and the 2 other kids at wide receiver, they should come back. I was waiting on this year. They had a lot of high hopes. Let's not forget, when they were healthy, they went in to beat Syracuse. They would say, well, Syracuse is an okay football team. Syracuse playing good football, and that's nice for a Group of 5 team to beat a Power 5, and what could have been for their season, but way too many injuries. You're not going to be able to keep up when you lose your best wide receiver and your quarterback for literally 5 to 6 weeks at that point. I do want to talk over some bigger football games here, Drew. 165, 166. Game of the night for me. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I haven't found an angle that is going to say, you know what? I clearly see this football game, and I want to lay the boom on this and take in either side. And I'm glad I don't, because I actually want to have a rooting interest in this football game. If I found a way and said, man, Notre Dame's the clear side, it'd be a little bit, I got to admit, it'd be a little bit tough watching the football game going, all me and my players have Notre Dame, but I'm cheering my ass off for Miami because the decorum doesn't look so great when you're saying, you know what? Hey, boys, let's all fire on Notre Dame -3. And throughout the game, I'm tweeting like, hell yeah, bring out that turnover chain. Doesn't go over too well with the people that actually have money on the football game. But I'm going to sit back and relax. The one thing I like in this football game, that front seven for Miami, that overall Miami defense, that atmosphere down there is going to keep them in that football game. I don't see Notre Dame coming in and just rolling up and down the field on the Miami Hurricanes defense. You know what it comes down to, Drew? More than anything, not Miami's defense, not Miami's swag, not Miami's turnover chain, not Amon Richards, not Travis Homer. It's the quarterback, Malik Rozier. And I'm not asking him, Drew, to come out and say, dude, man, I need you to go 20-24. I need you to throw for 340 yards. I need you to run for 1 and throw for 3 more to keep me in this football game. All you're asking him to do in this football game is on 3rd and 6, use your legs, get a first down. 3rd and 4, complete a short out pass. 3rd and 8, throw a screen pass that we might be able to pick up the first down. Just don't make the dumb turnover because he made the dumb turnover versus Virginia Tech, but Miami was good enough to overcome that. This is one of those football games. Malik Rozier is going to throw 3 interceptions. Don't even show up because Notre Dame's going to beat you and they're going to roll you. If he keeps the turnovers down, if he throws an interception or less and doesn't have a fumble, like his caused turnovers, Malik Rozier 1 or less, I think Miami has a really good shot to win this football game, and I like him with the 3.5 in that spot. But again, I can't factor that in right now and say, I've seen it too much, Joe. I've watched every Miami game. Malik Rozier just seems that if he starts really slow, he can't start really slow against the number 3 team in the country. He's got to come out. He's got to keep it moving. The one game that he actually started really fast and played well in for the first half was the Duke game, but that's a long time ago.
Yeah, and it's also a lot improved defense that he's going to be facing. What about this Miami under trend? I mean, what, 6 or 7 straight unders, and now we get a total flirting with 60. That's really surprising to me. But you bring up this atmosphere that they're going to be playing in, Donnie. You've been down in South Florida a bunch. You know the atmosphere down there. It's where I grew up. The Miami fans do not get into a lot of games, but when they do, it just gets wild. We saw it a little bit, or actually we saw it a lot against Virginia Tech, and we're going to see it even more this Saturday night at The Rock. I love what they've done with that new stadium there. And Donnie, I'll tell you, from talking to some of my friends this week, there's just no tickets available. It's sold out. Obviously Notre Dame travels well. Miami fans getting after it, so it's going to be a hell of an atmosphere. And I'll say this: I agree with you on the quarterback situation. A bunch of turnovers from them, and they're going to be in big trouble, especially because Notre Dame's one of those teams where they get up 2 touchdowns, they can just kind of pound you and just break out first downs, and all of a sudden that game gets real short, and Miami doesn't have a chance to come back. And because he's not, necessarily the guy that takes the 7-step drop and picks you apart, breaks down your defense and picks you apart. But you bring up a good point with him running the ball. I think that's going to be really important. He showed that ability against Virginia Tech, in that one long run. He looked fast, man. And if he's able to do that a bunch against Notre Dame, I think they got a shot at doing it. I just think Notre Dame up front, I was against Miami on the show last week, and fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. I don't know how the saying goes, but I'm going to go against them again, man. I just think Notre Dame up front, their offensive line, they'll be able to go into South Florida and cover the 3 points.
Yeah, similar MO too. I mean, you have that same sort of quarterback between Virginia Tech and Notre Dame that plays into it. Younger kid coming on the road. It's a big spotlight game, man. I mean, this is all the marbles. ESPN's in town, game days in town. You got to show up. This is what I always used to like to joke when I was growing up, going to football games. It doesn't matter. Like I've gone to see, Clemson at the Orange Bowl, Marshall at the Orange Bowl, Florida State at the Orange Bowl. I've seen Tennessee at the Orange Bowl. And it just seems to me there's 3 teams that Miami fans care about when they come to town, and 3 teams only, even though the Tennessee game was packed and had a lot to do with Tennessee fans back there. I believe it was 2004, 2005, whatever game. Miami lost that game. That was the Soldier game where Kellen Winslow said he's a fucking soldier. That was the game I went to versus Tennessee that they lost. I think it was Clausen at quarterback. How far long ago that was. Sean Taylor years. I mean, that was a really good Miami football team that lost. But it's Notre Dame, it's Florida, and it's Florida State. If anybody else, you can have Clemson come in, Drew, back in the Orange Bowl when Miami was routinely a top 10 team. Let's say Clemson was number 1 overall. The place would have 35,000 people in it. But if you brought Florida State, or Notre Dame into town, it was a party, and you could not get a ticket. So Miami's going to rise to the occasion. It's going to be a great atmosphere, man. The Rock is fun. and just give me that turnover chain, man. Give me the turnover chain right off the bat. I think it's hilarious, and we'll have a lot of fun. But that's going to be a fun football game overall. Do I have a decided advantage? No. But again, Miami's going to play that role as the underdog at home. Miami should be able to stay close in this football game. I don't see Notre Dame rolling into Miami and just smoking them right off the football field, but it does get down to the quarterback turning the football over there, Drew.
Yeah, and to explain that situation, I mean, Notre Dame, for obvious reasons, there's just a lot of Notre Dame fans in South Florida. I guess I don't know if it's a Catholic thing or what, but and the Florida and Florida State thing, you know, South Florida isn't a big college football market. It's just I can't explain it, but I'll tell you why. It's Florida State. There's so many Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach kids that go to Florida State, and the same thing with Florida. That's why. So everybody's kind of got friends that go to both of those schools. And it not being the biggest college football market, when other big schools, like you mentioned, like Clemson or Tennessee, where there's not a lot of like interaction with South Florida, it just doesn't make it doesn't make for the big atmosphere. So that's why the Florida State thing, which man, a Florida State Miami game, it doesn't get much better tailgating than that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Miami is a national team. I mean, obviously dating back to the 80s, but the always thing we used to get laughed at is like there's actually, it seems like there's more Miami alumni in the Northeast, you know, financial district and moving up. Like people go to Miami to get a good education, then they fly back to wherever they live, you know, throughout the Midwest or through the Northeast, Chicago. There's a lot of huge gatherings there, but you're right. When you go, like Florida State's an in-state school. Like if you live in Dade County, Broward County, you know, somewhere in that area, and you go to Florida State, you move back home and you're still in the area. Most of the time, it seems like Miami's a private school, so it's got a lot of out-of-town stuff. So, you know, you're flying back home, like, hey, where are you from? You know, Midwest Nebraska or whatever. But Florida State school, most people would go to Florida State. That's why it's big following. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do in South Beach. But say what you want for that. The Florida Marlins don't draw flies. The Miami Hurricanes, unless it's a big, big-time game, and they're really good, they don't draw flies. The Miami Dolphins struggle with their stadium there. Half the time you see like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Philadelphia Eagles, whenever like you have that out-of-town, out-of-conference game come down, it seems like the stadium gets taken over by the visiting team. And that doesn't help when Miami, the Dolphins, haven't been that good as well. But definitely a transient city, and there's a lot to do there. Most people like to hang out on the beach and has a lot of Latin flavor that says, you know, football, you know, the real football is soccer. Like I'm not going to the Miami Hurricanes football game, but we'll see what happens in that one. But I'm really, really excited for that football game to sit back and listen. Drew, one more game I want to go over in college football with you here. It's another marquee game, which not getting the top billing on the week as if Miami and Notre Dame will, but still a huge game and a huge tilt in the SEC. Two of them that we'll briefly talk over here. One, let's go after Alabama and Mississippi State in this one. We talked earlier before we even got on the air. Just interesting. I mean, the line opens up 14.5 in that range. Now you're seeing 13.5. Tall task you're asking Mississippi State. I know Alabama banged up at linebacker. It seems like they lose a starter every single week. But now you're asking Mississippi State to not only hang around, but looking in the fourth quarter, Alabama's not the football team, Drew, that you say, you know what? We're down 21 points, and we'll go 80 yards in the last 5 minutes, just punch in a late touchdown. It's not what you do. You're actually asking Mississippi State to be in this football game to win it in the fourth quarter. Think they can do that?
I don't know. I haven't bet it, but I just don't think this profile matches up well for Mississippi State. It's almost like they're kind of two very similar profiles, offensively speaking, and even defensively speaking. And it's just Alabama's like the big brother, you know. Even their colors are kind of similar. So I don't know, man. The coaching matchup, and also when you talk about the back door being open, because you bring up the fact that they under 14 points. A lot of times that means, you know, you got to literally be within a score in the fourth quarter if you're really going to feel confident about your bet cashing. And if they're down 20, are they going to be throwing the ball with success in the fourth quarter to kind of have that back door be open and cover the spread? They could. It's just, in my mind, not likely. Mississippi State kind of does better offensively, not in that situation where they have to throw the ball. So I don't like this profile for Mississippi State here. I mean, they didn't look good against Massachusetts. I guess you could say their head wasn't in it. But even when you look at the three covers they had in a row, it was BYU, it was SEC East Kentucky, and then A&M, which has been a real disappointment. So even though Mississippi State in the SEC West has kind of put together a season they can be proud of, I don't like this profile. So no, it's Alabama for me.
Yeah, the final one we'll go over in college football here. Near and dear to your heart, 187, 188. It's going to be Georgia and Auburn lines. I mean, you just look at that line, opens up -2 throughout the week. Now you see Chris drop it to -1.5, 69% of those wagers coming in on the road team here. Georgia, I can't fault them for doing that, but this takes me back to like even my childhood here, back in like the late 80s, early 90s, back when the night game, you had ESPN, the SEC game would come on, and it would be, Auburn at Jordan Hare back then. I even remember watching the game where like the school library was on fire in the background and plume smokes behind the Auburn football stadium, but always brings out good memories here. Auburn hanging around this football game because, hey, you're not asking them to hang around, Drew. I mean, that line is 1.5. You're asking Auburn to win this football game. We have seen Auburn rise to the occasion, a little bit nicked up at running back in the situation. But what's Auburn have for Georgia? And before I let you answer that, most people don't know really, Auburn on that, what is it, out on the west side or east side of Alabama, not too far from that Georgia border here. And talk about like the fans getting into that game, excited for this one. And what are we looking at here?
Yeah, a little history. It's the Deep South's oldest rivalry. These two teams, it depends how you want to rate it. I guess there was like World War II or something where like a bunch of teams didn't play, but these two teams did play. So that's kind of like how it works out to be able to be called that. I'm not sure exactly why, but something like that. And yeah, Auburn is, when you're going from Georgia into Alabama, it's only like 15 minutes into Alabama. So there's a lot of people from Atlanta which is only like a little over an hour from Auburn in there. So I think it's called like the War of Brothers or something, the Battle of Brothers or something. They're a lot similar. The towns kind of look alike, things like that. But as far as play on the field, I would like Auburn a lot more if it was a night game. That place just gets wild. Jordan Hare for night games, a little bit more so than day games. Quarterback wise, I like Auburn's situation. I mean, Jarrett Stidham has played better of late. He can throw the ball deep, which I think that they can have some success with. As far as running it, he can run it a little bit against this Georgia front though, Donnie. They're pretty good, man. And man, I want to say Auburn. It's my War Eagle Tigers or whatever. But no, man, I think Georgia's the stronger team offensively. I think they'll be able to move the ball. So I'd actually lay it with Georgia, like you brought up, under 3 to win the game, to go into Auburn and come out with the W.
Yeah, it should be a fun game. I mean, you want to talk about a lot of top 20 matchups this weekend. This is going to be your weekend to watch football. As you would say in golf, moving day in golf. This is actually going to be moving day in college football because a lot of teams are going to really stake their claim and say, we're going to get in here into this top 4 and make a run a la Miami. Miami knocks off Notre Dame. Now you're not going to say anymore like, well, who have they played? They haven't played anybody. They beat everybody on their schedule and start moving up. The same thing with Notre Dame. I mean, college football will kill to get Notre Dame in that top 4 because of what it means for ratings. I just hope, you don't see that on display tomorrow in Miami with that extra flag for Notre Dame, and we got to get them in there for all that TV money. So we'll see what happens, but it should be a lot of fun. Just flip it over for maybe a minute here before we get out of here on the NFL. Interesting games popping up here. I mean, no more interesting than that 269-270 Dallas-Atlanta game where Zeke Elliott has been suspended, do or die for both of these football teams. Almost like we talk about college football, Drew, as an elimination game. This might be an elimination game heading down to the playoffs because these two teams will be vying for probably that 5th, 6th, 7th position in the NFL to see if you're going to be able, NFC to get into the playoffs. And if you get a win in this one, you get the leg up, obviously, with the tiebreaker going head-to-head. So a de facto 2-game advantage for the winner, whoever comes out of that one. Some other interesting layouts. Do you want to back the New York Giants? I mean, the New York Giants and San Francisco 49ers game. A lot of people like the saying I have, take 2 sticks of dynamite, put it in your car, and fire yourself in the sun and just explode if you want to watch and enjoy that football game or more or less bet the football game. Should be a lot of fun. But there's a couple interesting ones out there, Cincinnati, Tennessee, New Orleans, Buffalo in that instance. Not a great card this week, though, Drew. Like sometimes, my ears ring on Monday. Like I can't wait to get to Sunday. I'm going to have to do my homework. Done very well in the NFL. I expect to do well in the NFL again on Sunday. Moved on 1 football game, but finding these next 2 to make sure they're right seems a little bit tougher in the NFL this week, Drew. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, Donnie, you know the NFL better than anybody I know, pretty much. So this is right up your wheelhouse. I'll bring up one game with you: the Miami Dolphins, Carolina Panthers. Carolina at home. However, a quote that I saw from Cam Newton, something about the Titanic sinking, comparing their team to the Titanic. Dude, quotes like that scare me, man. They just traded away Benjamin. Are they Fade City for you?
Fade City for Carolina? No. I actually would move Fade City a little bit to Miami this one. We have Juwan James going to miss the football game. There's hard-pressed to find a better front seven right now going than the Carolina Panthers. Jay Cutler with those little ribs. Jay Cutler's ribs are going to get tested in this football game. I mean, if you watched that game on Sunday night, the Raiders pretty much owned the Dolphins. It took that late touchdown to get that push cover with a 2-point conversion. They got eaten up in that football game. Now you're going to say, all right, you're going to go on the road and play Carolina. Do I like Carolina's offense? Not that much. But the one thing, that front seven is healthy, and Jay Cutler's ribs are not healthy. Game could get a little bit ugly there, especially without your starting tackle in this football game either.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to get your opinion on that, because those type of quotes, man, they scare me as far as what the team chemistry is in the locker room, things like that, and especially if your quarterback's saying that can be scary.
No, you're right about that. But it's a high line, though. I mean, hey, in the NFL, man, covering 9 points or 10 points, that's not the easiest thing to do. Carolina did play a good football game against Atlanta over the weekend, but I do preface that by saying, if Julio Jones out of nowhere just gets a ball hit off his face in the end zone and doesn't catch it, the one he catches 100,000 times out of 100,000 times, that's a different ball game in that one. But hey, that's kudos to Carolina Panthers. They're tough at home. They're going to be able to bring the heat. It's going to be Monday Night Football. They have a little bit of extra rest. They're not as banged up as they were in the past. That front seven should be able to get off the mound. And what's Miami's motivation here, Drew, anymore? They're going on the road saying, you know what? Jay Cutler's like, dude, I'm about to smoke a cigarette. My ribs are hurting me. I know what I'm getting paid the rest of the year. I'm not playing next year. We're probably not going to the playoffs. Dude, I don't want to get killed out here.
Yeah, I got a hot girl waiting for me at home. Does he actually smoke cigarettes?
I don't know if he does, but he looks like, doesn't he look like after a game, like you could see him leaving the game with a can of beer open, or like that 6-pack, but there's only 2 left in the ring, and, pack of smokes folded up in his sleeve, something like that. He just looks like that.
Yeah, he does. I mean, I don't know. He went to Vanderbilt, so I can't tell if he's kind of stuck up. He obviously looks like he's kind of an asshole, but he might be kind of crazy on the side. I don't have a good read on him, except for the fact I don't want to be betting on him. That's for sure.
No, you're absolutely right here. Well, it comes to the end of the show here, Drew. We'd like to give out maybe a play or two for some people out there to heat up on. Yeah, I've been doing very well in the closing line lately with my plays of the day. And again, even if I don't love the play, you still want to give your best lean of the night here for us, and I'll do that. 119, 120. Going to stick with the hometown crew. Looked at it all day long. Out of the 3 games tonight in college football, I think it's the best one. Do I think Temple can win in a blowout at Cincinnati? No. Would it be nice if they did? Yes. But I'll lean on the -2.5 that has been there all day long. Took a little bit of that about an hour and a half ago. So I'm going to lean on Temple tonight. I just think they're the stronger team. I think they have the better overall profile on offense and defense. I think they're going to be able to win this one. You're right. We brought it up with Big Man on Campus earlier today on the right side of campus. The extra 2 days to prepare and get ready. And again, they have that late season charge. They can still make a bowl game. They put in a new quarterback. He's been playing really well. You get that, a little bit more juice at practice heading down the stretch. I think they're going to be able to win this football game. I'll take them. Give me a field goal win on the road for Temple. I'll go with that as my closing line play of the day. Temple -2.5. How about you, Drew?
Temple -2.5. I like it. I would almost say double up, because that's what I was going to go with. But I'll give another one. Is it okay if I go to the Saturday card?
Go, yeah. Hey, it's all good. As long as it cashes, that's all we care about here, Drew.
All right, man. I'm going with Lane Kiffin. I'm going to ride this train. FAU. First of all, Louisiana Tech. I don't think this is the same Louisiana Tech as years past, which I've actually liked the program. But losing to North Texas, I don't think they looked very, very good. That score is a lot closer than the game entailed. North Texas really took it to them. And beating Southern Miss, Southern Miss had the quarterback issues, so I don't give them as much credit for that. I just don't think Louisiana Tech is as talented as they have been. FAU, say what you want. The Western Kentucky game, Western Kentucky, kind of staying with them. And then the Marshall game, they were going to cover that. Obviously, we all know the situation with what happened there at the end. I think that this FAU train that's been happening on offense keeps going. I like FAU to continue their surprising year this year and cover the 4.5 right now.
All right, so we'll go with that little FAU action. I can't fault you on that, man. Just look at their last 5-game profile. Nobody's stepping in front of FAU right now, in full control of the conference. Big game on deck next week with FIU, but no surprise, they want to win this football game, lock it up, and then go beat down FIU next week as well in a cross-city battle between Miami and Boca Raton. That'll do it tonight, folks, for the closing line for November 10th, 2017. Hope we maybe pointed you in the right direction. Had a lot of fun tonight talking college football with Drew Martin. Check him out all over sportsbookreview.com, and also give him a follow there. there at Drew Martin Bets. Does great things around the channel, host many different platforms here. And I appreciate him taking the time on a Friday night to talk a little college football with us. Check out SBRodds.com and also give us a follow on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks. Also, if you're watching right now here on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down, but make sure you hit that subscribe button there. Get the notifications every single time we go live, because you know what's going to happen tonight? Gabe and the Big Man, they're going to go live tonight. Tomorrow, you're not going to want to miss out on Peter Loshak and the Big Man on Campus's show, kicking off at 11 a.m. tomorrow, the closing line edition of college football. A lot of free winners giving out on that show. Also, if you're looking to get down, get some money in tonight, sportsbookreview.com. Get every single sportsbook offshore graded. You know, who's getting up the best bonuses, who's not paying out that fast. That's what we do here at sportsbookreview.com. For the closing line, everybody here at sportsbookreview.com, good luck on your wagers tonight, and we hope he helped you beat the closing line, fellas. Good luck this weekend.